I think at its best, the nuclear deal did not settle the nuclear question. It's already been mentioned, the sunsets on the nuclear limitations are a problem, but also inadequate verification arrangements over potential and actual military nuclear activities. The deal was certainly ill-equipped to settle Iranian missile issues or any of the multiple regional conflicts in play for years. But even on a fundamental nuclear proliferation question, the JCPOA did not settle the question of whether Iran had or has an ongoing nuclear weapons program. At best, it kicked this key issue to the IAEA, which so far has been unable to make much progress in determining one way or the other. This inability is registered every 3 months by the International Atomic Energy Agency, reporting that it cannot determine or certify Iran's nuclear program as peaceful. An unexpected development outside the JCPOA, which Jim raised, happened in early 2018 when Israel seized a cache of top secret Iranian documents and CDs in Tehran about Plan Ahmad, Iran's crashed nuclear weapons program in the early 2000s. Its goal was to build 5 nuclear weapons, 4 deliverable by missile, and 1 held in reserve for an underground nuclear test. Importantly, international pressure, Jim mentioned the presence of US troops next door, inadvertently led Iran in 2003 and 2004 to secretly end the Ahmad plan. However, the documents in the archives show that Iran did not end its nuclear weapons program. Instead, it downsized and reconstituted it. The documents also show a nuclear weapons program that was far larger and more advanced than thought before the discovery of the archive. The archive has also opened a pathway to more effective inspections that could be jeopardized by merely rejoining the JCPOA. Based on documents in the archive and its own investigations, the IAEA has alleged that Iran has undeclared nuclear material and activities. It has pressed Iran for access to 2 sites and asked Iran to truly cooperate. After months of refusing and under international pressure, Iran agreed to allow IAEA access to these 2 sites. However, Iran's decision has only been tactical, a way to deflect international pressure and further split the United States from Europe. It did not represent a desire to truly cooperate with the IAEA. It routinely calls the archive documents forgeries. The 2 visits did happen, and we are awaiting the results. But overall, the international support for the IAEA is critical as it seeks answers from Iran. One way to undermine this important IAEA effort is to blindly rejoin the JCPOA. After all, the IAEA is wrestling with the core nuclear question: is Iran's nuclear program peaceful? This issue should be front and center in any re-engagement with Iran. Resolving this issue should be a prerequisite for any nuclear deal. Now, where is Iran on its nuclear buildup? A measure that we use of that buildup is what we call breakout, the amount of time to produce enough weapon-grade uranium for a nuclear weapon. That time we now estimate is as short as 3 to 4 months, and less than 6 months to produce enough for 2 weapons. The breakout timelines will reduce further if Iran starts to produce near 20% enriched uranium, an action mandated by a new Iranian law that Jim mentioned. Timelines will further decrease if Iran deploys advanced centrifuges, as also demanded by the new law. Now, I would like to discuss briefly, what does an Iranian nuclear weapons program look like today? First, one needs to look more carefully at what defines a nuclear weapons program in a country like Iran. Iran does not appear today to have a program focused on the actual building of nuclear weapons, and the international community deserves a lot of credit for that. But Iran does appear to have a program to be prepared to do so, and to do so in short order. It is important to emphasize that Iran does not appear, to me at least, to have a nuclear weapons program like the one in Pakistan or South Africa in the 1970s and 1980s. It did in the Ahmad plan, but that program has been stalled. Also, Iran is way beyond what is sometimes called a latent nuclear weapons program, a term sometimes pinned on Japan with its large stock of separated plutonium. What Iran has is a program to produce nuclear weapons on demand. Somebody in Iran is thinking about nuclear weapons, preserving nuclear weapons capabilities, including related information and equipment, advancing nuclear capabilities, and fighting off exposure. We do not know how or if Iran has thought through a precise timeline to a deliverable nuclear weapon following a decision to build nuclear weapons. This is a very difficult question to answer from the outside. There are two key parts to this question: an underground nuclear test and missile deliverable nuclear weapons. In my own work, I assess that Iran is able to conduct an underground nuclear test in 6 to 9 months, assuming current breakout at timelines of 3 to 4 months. That type of test would change the Middle East. A nuclear warhead on a missile would take longer. How much longer is hard to determine, but 1 to 2 years is often cited, although some think it would involve a shorter time frame. The answer is highly uncertain. Can simply rejoining the JCPOA deal with this type of nuclear weapons program? I think the answer is no, not by itself. In fact, Iran likely supports the JCPOA in part because the nuclear deal does not do well at preventing or exposing such a nuclear weapons program. What should be fixed in a nuclear deal? Briefly, Jim has talked about it. There's a desperate need to improve inspections, including systematic access to military sites, and Iran cooperating with the International Atomic Energy Agency. There's a need to extend, or I would argue better, to eliminate the nuclear sunsets, particularly on gas centrifuges. Should be an effort to limit Iran's nuclear-capable missile program. And in this effort, as others, Jim has pointed out, Luke pointed out, the United States has tremendous leverage. I mean, with this, the power of the sanctions went way beyond any expectations. The Iran nuclear challenge was not solved by the JCPOA or the Trump administration. It is a challenge begging attention, but there is no reason to rush or give in to demands to rejoin. Even shortened breakout times do not justify such action. Rejoining the JCPOA as outlined by Iran and by the European Union leadership and several NGOs would not only be a mistake, but a lost opportunity. Pursuing a more deliberate path to solve this problem may increase tensions in the short run. Arriving at a fix will not be quick, but tensions are likely to rise by reinstituting the JCPOA as presently configured. They certainly did after the deal was implemented in 2016. The way to reduce both conflict and the chances of proliferation is to fix and broaden the JCPOA. The JCPOA had its place, headed off a crisis, and bought some time. However, by itself, it is woefully inadequate to deal with the threat of nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles or threats posed by Iran. Thank you.